Hello everyone, I am Mr. Tari and we are going to talk about composition of two forces, the resultant of two. First, we'll talk about net forces. The net forces depend on the magnitude and the direction of the applied force. Look to the following figure, applied forces. If you have an object and you affect the object by two forces, 5 Newton and 10 Newton, so the net forces or the resultant force equal 15 Newton. And this is the same, the two forces are in the same direction. If you have another object and you have force 10 Newton and another force 5 Newton in the opposite direction, so the net force or the resultant force equal 5 Newton, the difference between the two forces. And if you have two forces act at an object and in the same and the opposite direction and the same magnitude, like 5 Newton and 5 Newton, so the net force or the resultant force will be equal 0 and the body will be at rest. So to find the resultant of two forces and that you must find F1 and F2 be two forces acting at one point. Say point O, this is F1 and this is F2, and act at point O, and the measure of the angle between the direction of two forces is alpha. This is alpha. So OA represented by F1 and OB represented by F2 and OC represented by R, the resultant force, and OC is the diagonal of the parallelogram constructed of the two adjacent OB and OA. If you complete the figure, you will find that OC is the diagonal of parallelogram. Like this, F1 OA and the F2 OB, and the alpha is the included angle. So if you move OB to parallel line to make the parallelogram or construct the parallelogram, so the resultant force, the red line, will be OC. This is the resultant force of two forces. So by using cosine law, you will find R power 2 equal F1 power 2 plus F2 power 2 plus 2F1 F2 cosine alpha. This is to find the resultant of two forces according to F1 and F2, and the alpha, the included angle between the two forces. Alpha is the included angle between the two forces. Theta, angle theta, is the angle between the resultant and the first force and called the direction of the resultant. And we can find it by drawing the right angle triangle. This angle alpha by corresponding tan theta, you can find theta according to the law tan theta equal F2 sine alpha over F1 plus F2 cosine alpha. Theta is the angle between the resultant force and the first force. So tan theta F2 sine alpha over F1 plus F2 cosine alpha. Let me talk about the special case. If F1 and F2 have the same direction, so if you have a body and F1 and F2 have the same direction, so the resultant of the two force will be summation of the two force. The magnitude of the resultant equals the summation of the two force, or has the same line of action of the forces. If F1 and F2 have the same line of action and the opposite direction, so F1, F2, and the alpha will be 180, so or the resultant force will be absolute the difference between F1 and F2, the difference between F1 and F2. And the direction of the resultant will be with the greater force. The third one, if F1 and F2 equal F, and the alpha not equal 0 or 180. So this is the first force F and the second force F. And by drawing the parallelogram, we will find that the angle will bisect by the resultant force. So alpha will be alpha over 2 here and here, alpha over 2. So theta equal alpha over 2. And the r square equal f1 power 2 plus f2 power 2 plus 2f1 f2 cosine alpha. By substitution, you will find that r, this is the proof of the rule, you will find that r equal to f cosine alpha over 2. This is the important rule. Alpha r equal to f cosine alpha over 2 if f1 and f2 equal f, and theta in this case equal alpha over 2. The next one, if r perpendicular to, if f1 and f2 are perpendicular, if f1 and f2 are perpendicular, alpha equal 90. Left to the figure f1 and f2 and the angle alpha equal 90 degree. By complete your parallelogram, you will find it will be rectangle. So the resultant force in this case, r power 2 equal f1 power 2 plus f2 power 2 plus 2f1 f2 cosine 90. Cosine 90 equals 0, so this term 2f1 f2 cosine 90 will be cancelled. So r power 2 equal f1 power 2 plus f2 power 2. And theta, tan theta will be f2 over f1 in this case. Number 5, if the resultant force perpendicular to the first force, this is the first force F1, and this is the resultant force R, and this is angle 90, and this is the second force F2. So theta equal 90 degree. So tan theta, tan 90 equal F2 sine alpha over F1 plus F2 cosine alpha. Tan 90 equal undefined, so it will be, for example, 1 over 0 or 2 over 0, any number over 0. So 1 over 0. So the denominator will be 0. So F1 plus F2 cosine alpha equals 0, and in this case cosine alpha, it will be negative F1 over F2. Let's take an example. The first one, find the magnitude and the direction of the resultant of the two forces F1 and F2. If F1 750 Newton and F2 500 Newton, and the angle between them is 60. So alpha it will be 60. Alpha it will be 60, and the F1 750 and the F2 500. When we start, we will get R power 2 equal F1 power 2 750 power 2 plus F2 power 2 500 power 2 plus 2 multiply F1 750 multiply F2 500 multiply cosine 60. I will check the answer. 750 power 2 plus 500 power 2 plus 2 multiply 750 multiply 500 multiply cosine 60. It will be 1187500 by taking the square root. Square root the answer. So it will be R equal approximation 1090. Approximation 1090 Newton. The direction of the force, the resultant force, we can find it by tan theta. Tan theta equal F2 500 multiply cosine 60 over F1 750 plus F2 500 multiply cosine 60. The numerator sine 60, not cosine. I will check the answer. 500 multiply sine 60 over 750 plus 500 multiply cosine 60. The answer will be 4.433. Shift the answer. Approximation theta will be 23 degree 24 minutes and 48 seconds. The next one, if two angles if the angle of the two forces is 90, so alpha equal 90, and the resultant force root 10 Newton. If the angle is 60, the resultant will be root 13. Find the magnitude of each force. So F1 and F2 unknown here, and the resultant root 10 if the alpha equal 90 and root 13 if alpha equal 60. You have two cases. Let the magnitude of the forces be F1 and F2 and the angle between them is alpha. So R power 2 equal F1 power 2 plus F2 power 2 because alpha equal 90 degree. So root 10 power 2 equal 10 equal F1 power 2 plus F2 power 2. In the second case, F1 power 2 plus F2 power 2 and LR will be 13 and alpha will be 60 by substitution. Root 13 power 2 13 F1 power 2 plus F2 power 2 plus 2 F1 F2 cosine 60. So F1 power 2 plus F2 power 2 equal 10. F1 power 2 plus F2 power 2 equal 10 by substitution. So 13 equal, and cosine 60 equal half will cancel 2. So this is 10. Move to the other side by negative 13 minus 10 equals 3. So F1, F2 equal 3. and you will divide by F1 to both sides, so F2 equals 3 over F1, and move to the first equation to substitution about F2, so 10 equal F1 power 2 plus 3 over F1 whole power 2, by multiply F1 power 2 to all the equation, so 10 F1, this will 10 F1, 10 F1 power 2, and this is F1 power 4, and this will be 9. This will be 9. Move 10 F1 to the other side to make the equation equal 0. So F1 power 4 minus 10 F1 power 2 plus 9 equals 0. And by factorize F1 power 2 minus 9, F1 power 2 minus 1 equals 0. So F1 power 2 equal 9, so F1 equal 3, or F1 power 2 equal 1, so F1 equal 1 Newton. By substitution about F1 in this equation, F2 equals 3 over F1, you will find F2 equal 1 or 3. So the two forces are 3 and 1. Example number 3. Two forces of magnitude F and 2F act at one point O. Find the angle between them if the resultant between them is perpendicular to the first force. This is our special case, tan theta equal F2 sine alpha over F1 plus F2 cosine alpha. Tan 90 undefined, so the denominator will be 0. So F plus 2F cosine alpha equals 0. So F plus 2F equals 0. Take F to the other side by negative sign. So 2F cosine alpha equal F. Cancel F with F. So cosine alpha equal negative half. Shift cosine, it will be 120 degrees. Number 4. If the maximum resultant of two forces meeting at a point is 20 kilogram, 20 gram weight, while the minimum value of the resultant equal 10 gram weight, find the magnitude of the two forces. So R maximum if the two forces have the same direction, and R minimum if the two forces are opposite direction. So let F1 more than F2. So R maximum F1 plus F2 equal 20. This is the first equation, the maximum value. R maximum equal F1 plus F2, and R minimum F1 minus F2 because F1 equal for more than F2. So F1 minus F2 equal 10. By adding the two equations, F1 and F2, F1 plus F1, it will be 2F1. F2 minus F2 cancelled, 20 plus 10, it will be 30. Divide by 2 to both sides, so F1 equal 15. By substitution in the first equation or the second equation, so F2 will be 5. Another example. Two forces acting at a point, each of magnitude F and 2F in newtons, and the magnitude of their resultant is R. If the magnitude of the first force is increased by 5 Newton, while the magnitude of the second force is doubled, then if the angle between the resultant and the first force didn't change, find F. Also, if R equal 5 root 3 Newtons, find the measure of the angle between the two forces, then prove that the resultant is perpendicular to the first force. So, two forces act at a point, their magnitude F and 2F. The magnitude of the resultant is R. Let alpha is the angle of two forces, and theta is the direction of the resultant with the first force. In two cases. First case, F and 2F alpha and theta. So, and in the second case, the first force increased by 5 newtons. And the magnitude of the second force is doubled. So F will be F plus 5, and to F doubled it will be 4F. And the angle between the resultant and the first force didn't change, so theta is constant, and the alpha is constant. So tan theta equal F2 sine alpha over F1 plus F2 cosine alpha. So by substitution in the two cases, so 2F sine alpha over F plus 2F cosine alpha equal 4F sine alpha over F plus 5 plus 4F cosine alpha. I will cancel sine alpha from both sides and F from both sides and divide by 2. So it will be here 1 and here 2. So the two fraction 1 over F plus 2F cosine alpha equal 2 over F plus 5 plus 4F cosine alpha by cross multiplication. You will find F plus 5 plus 4F cosine alpha equal to F plus 4F cosine alpha. 4F cosine alpha will cancel 4F cosine alpha. So F plus 5 equal to F. So F will be 5 Newton. And R equal 5 root 3 Newton. Find the measure of the angle between the two forces. If R equal 5 Newton, then prove that the resultant is perpendicular to the first force. R power 2 equal F1 power 2 plus F2 power 2 plus 2F1 F2 cosine alpha. By substitution, F1 equal 5 and F2 will be 10. So 75 equal 25 plus 10 power 200 plus 2 multiply 5 multiply 10 equal 100 cosine alpha. So cosine alpha equal negative 1 over 2. Cosine alpha equal negative 1 over 2. By take shift cosine, so alpha equal 120, and tan theta equal F2 10 sine 120 over 10 plus 5 cosine 120 equal 10 sine 120 over 5 plus 10 cosine 120. So it will be 10 multiply root 3 over 2. This is 5 and this is 10. 10 multiply root 3 over 2 over 0, so it will be undefined. Tan theta equal undefined, so theta equal 90 degrees.